Ladies, gentlemen, and ladies, gentlemen's, Andy here. I coach people on building lives of abundance and joy. If we can all do it, you sure as hell can too. Sometimes my coaching clients, and maybe some of you watching, will get the impression that I'm some badass who can just wake up in the morning and take a bunch of action and do a bunch of crazy stuff. Whether that's threesomes, building a relationship with my partner Imogen, whether that's coaching, making a ton of money, whatever it might be. People can sometimes get the impression if you're watching someone on YouTube or on Instagram that that person always has their shit together and they never feel any insecurity or any fear. They're just some confident, perfect badass, because that's, for the most part, what you see. And I might talk a lot about my doubts and insecurities. God knows I've done a ton of videos on that in the past. And I did this article that you can see here on the screen called I Am Always Full of Doubt. And in there, I also have a podcast I did called I Have No Fucking Idea What I'm Doing. I talk a lot about my doubts and my insecurities, but I understand that if you're watching someone who's maybe done some things that you want to do, or you could phrase that as watching someone who's ahead of you or a little bit further along this journey than you are, you can make assumptions about that person and assume that their life is perfect and hunky-dory and wonderful and glamorous, and they never get scared and they never have doubts and they never have insecurities. But that is very much not true. I have a billion doubts. I have a billion insecurities. I have uncertainties. I have fears. I was utterly terrified to start my website, my blog. And this here on the screen is the very first article that I ever wrote. It was called Give Yourself Permission to Suck. And I literally talked in this article about how I have a serious issue with perfectionist thinking. I put all this pressure on myself that I have to be perfect, that I have to know what I'm doing, that I can't ever make a mistake or ever fail or feel rejection or any of that sort of stuff. And so this article, again, it's called Give Yourself Permission to Suck, is the very first article I ever wrote because I was procrastinating. I was really scared to start my blog. I was scared to put myself out there. I was really scared to try and help people. I thought nobody would read anything that I had to say. I thought that I was boring and uninteresting and too much of a nerd and too much of a loser. And I thought, who on earth would want to hear what I have to say? I had serious imposter syndrome. I really didn't think that I could coach or help anyone. And I never in a million years could have dreamt that it would grow into what it has become today. Same thing with starting my YouTube channel and my Spotify podcast. When I first started appearing on camera, or at first it was just audio only on my Spotify podcast, I didn't think I was very good at speaking. And truth is, I wasn't. I kind of did suck. That's why I had to give myself permission to suck. But I didn't think I could help anyone. I didn't think that anything I had to say would have any bearing or impact on anyone's life. I didn't think anyone would follow or listen. I never thought I would make any money. I didn't think I'd make a single dollar. In fact, that was my goal for the first, I had that goal for a year before I made $1 because I was just so utterly scared to ask anyone for money, terrified of rejection. I know that it can be very easy to watch someone on YouTube like me or maybe someone else that you're watching and assume that those people or us are just confident badasses who never feel fear, who never worry about rejection. But the truth is, I've always been scared of that stuff. I've just taken action anyway. And the way that I've done that is like I talk about in this channel all the time. You give yourself permission to suck at the start. You take a little baby step towards your goal every single day or most days, and you just don't quit. That's it. That's how you gain confidence. It's how you get decent at something. It's how you build a business, like I've done with the coaching and with this channel. I didn't just wake up one day and have 55,000 YouTube subscribers. It was a slow process over 4 years. And doing a lot of content. I mean, look, if we check the channel, 710 videos. I have done 710 YouTube videos and a whole lot more Spotify podcasts and 500 articles. I've just done a whole bunch of stuff and slowly improved over time. But I was terrified to do it. I still to this day sometimes get terrified. I'm sometimes afraid. I sometimes hold back, especially if I'm going to do a topic that I feel like I'm really nervous or really terrified to cover. Like when I talked about my time in prison when I was 19 years old, I went to prison. Doing that video, I was utterly terrified. I think I literally called it, I'm terrified to do this, my time in prison. I've done lots of videos where I talk about how utterly terrified I am to do that very video. And that's completely normal. And so if any of you feel like you're not good enough, or you feel like a loser, you feel unconfident, you feel like you doubt yourself, or you have insecurities, or you don't think that you're going to be able to make it, welcome to the fucking club. That's so unbelievably normal. You've likely just been telling yourself a story that you're the only one that feels fear. You're the only one that feels this bad. Nobody else feels as bad as me. That's the ego having, a great time of it and pretending that it's special, but you're really not that special. I've said this about depression. I'm someone that was very depressed and suicidal when I was younger for about 8 or 9 years. I've done a whole video series on that. I've done a whole article on like a massive guide and basically a biography of my time with depression and how I overcame it, and a whole bunch of resources and help for you. And I've obviously worked with a lot of clients that have had depression. But as I came out of my depression, I was able to see that depression, for most people who are depressed, it is a very big form of arrogance. You tell yourself that you're the most depressed, most fucked up, most unlovable person on the planet. A lot of people who are, quote, incels, and that's not usually a word that I use, but if you are someone who is involuntarily celibate, a lot of incels have the same level of arrogance. Maybe some of you listening might have something similar where you're like, I'm too short, so I can never get laid. It's too late for me. I'm too old. I don't have any money, so therefore I can't spend any money on improving myself and I can't get laid. I'll never meet a woman because I'm ugly, or I'm this, or I'm Indian, or I'm Asian, or I'm short, or I'm any of these sort of excuses, or I'm bald. But ultimately, you're really not that special. And it took me a long time to realize that I'm really not that special either. And all the doubts and insecurities and fears that I have, pretty much everyone else has to some degree as well. I'm really just not the only person on the planet with fears and doubts and insecurities. It's just that most people don't talk about their insecurities. They don't bring it up. They don't share it because you're terrified of rejection. You're terrified of being a freak or something. You're terrified of people laughing at you if you share your insecurities and your doubts and your biggest fears. But if you are able to take that leap of faith and be a little vulnerable and tell some friends or some family or a therapist or a coach or people that you're dating or anyone, really, some of the things that you're insecure and afraid of, you come to see that most of the time they say, oh yeah, I feel like that a lot too. And you go, wait, I thought I was the only freak who was insecure about this thing. I thought I was the only one who worried about this. I can't believe you feel like this too. And the more people that you tell your insecurities to or share your insecurities with, the more you realize you're just not that special. You're not alone. You start to realize that most of the thoughts, maybe even all of the thoughts that are in your head, somebody else has that exact same thought. In fact, a lot of people have that exact same thought. If you want to play out an exercise, any of you that are currently in a relationship or maybe dating a few different people casually or whatever it is, ask them the next time you're in bed, after you've had sex and you're kind of cuddling and laying there and, feeling nice and chill in that afterglow, say to them, what is your biggest insecurity? Like about your personality, about your body, about life, whatever it is. Tell me your biggest insecurities and I'll tell you mine. Maybe you might have to go first and open up first, so then they open up with you. But it will blow your mind, the things that people are insecure about, because you'll look at them and you'll say, what the fuck? How are you insecure about that? That's one of my favorite things about you. Or I've just never even thought about that. Why are you insecure about that? And then they will say the same to you. Why are you insecure about the things that you're insecure about? I didn't even notice. Nobody else even noticed. But you think it's a big deal because you're the one in your own head letting that insecurity or that fear or that doubt bounce around in there, mentating on it, obsessing about it, ruminating on it so many times, millions of times a day until it becomes almost an obsession. And that's how I felt with a lot of my own fears and doubts and insecurities in my own life. I ruminate on them. I focus on them. I don't do it as much anymore, but I used to ruminate and focus on them so much and I'd feel so alone. I literally thought it's a deal breaker being bald. Look at this big, beautiful bald head covered up by this cute little Kirby beanie. I used to think that being bald would mean no woman on the planet would like me. That obviously isn't true. I used to think that I was too old when I was about 28/29, about to hit my 30s. I thought no women would ever like me, especially not younger women in their early 20s or, 18, 19. Why would they like me? I'm old. I'm 30. I'm gross. But all of these fears turn out not to be true. But when we don't share them with other people and we think we're the special one who's all fucked up and unlovable and all of that, it can become this big hurdle that stops us from taking action, from being vulnerable, from giving life a real go. And I can absolutely relate to that. Again, I know it might feel sometimes like you watch a channel with a guy who puts out, somewhat edited videos. I edit these a little bit, not a lot, but a tiny bit. I cut out some big mistakes or something like that. You watch this like slightly edited content, and there's plenty of other people on YouTube that is heavily edited, especially on Instagram and stuff like that. You watch this slightly edited content where someone puts in, generally speaking, their best effort and they're trying to put out their best content to you. You watch that and you think, wow, this person is perfect, or this person is way further along than me. I must just be a loser who's fucked up and not good enough. No. Believe me, I have been there. I've been at the very bottom. I was depressed and suicidal for a lot of years, almost a decade. I understand that feeling of feeling all alone and like you're not good enough, and the fear and the doubt and the insecurity and all of that. So many of you are going to go on to lead beautiful, big, amazing, courageous, crazy, loving, giving, beautiful lives. You're going to go on to change the world, some of you, but you're holding back from fear. You're holding back from doubt and insecurity, and this story that you tell yourself that you're all alone and you're the most fucked up one and nobody else is as fucked up as you. And people on YouTube like Andy and other people have their shit together, and I bet they never feel doubts, and I bet it's easy for them. And why is it so hard for me to try being honest and vulnerable with someone of the opposite sex? Or why is it so hard for me to start a business and ask people for money? I bet it wasn't hard for Andy. Yes, it fucking was. It was unbelievably terrifying. Everything I've ever done has been unbelievably scary and terrifying, and I've procrastinated for weeks and months sometimes. I had a 5-month period after I finished an approach anxiety program where I learned how to talk to women. I had a 5-month period afterwards where I basically didn't leave the house because I was so fucking terrified to actually go out there and hit on women properly now and actually start that part of my life. I procrastinated for 5 months and basically became a shut-in because I was so terrified of going outside. I promise you, all of the people that you might look up to or take advice from felt all the fear that you're currently feeling right now. They just also took some action, and not even crazy action. Literally, when I had that 5-month period where I didn't leave the house very much and I procrastinated talking to women, the way that I pushed through it was by just going outside and saying, okay, I can't talk to women. That's too scary. My only mission is to leave the house every day for 5 minutes. And I did that for a couple of weeks. Okay, now my mission is to try and smile at people. And then I did that. Now my mission is to try and just give them a compliment. And I did that. And finally, I was able to work up to actually hitting on them, which is why if you go onto my website, I have this approach anxiety program right here. It's the exact thing I put in my approach anxiety program. Give yourself permission to suck. I was insecure. It's okay if you are too. Go outside and just think about hitting on women. Imagine you're doing it. You don't even have to fucking do it. Just imagine you're doing it. And then from there, start making eye contact with some of them. Start smiling at some of them. Once that's a habit, start giving a compliment. Then start some small talk. And then finally ask for a phone number to go on, a coffee date or a drink. Like, that's how I did it. It was not glamorous. It was the most like baby step shit ever. I felt very pathetic a lot of days, and I often have with many of my goals. I don't really feel like that anymore. I'm a little kinder to myself, but I used to beat myself up a lot and be like, you're pathetic, Andy. Like, what the fuck is this? You can't even talk to women. You can't even ask someone for money. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, I beat myself up a lot in the past, and it's okay if you do too. But I promise that this stuff gets easier. I promise all the people that you're looking up to have felt fear and terror as well. One of my favorite videos is this Elon Musk video where Sam Altman, who's the CEO of OpenAI, asks Elon Musk about fear. And he says, Elon, one of the things I like most about you is that you're completely fearless and you always just take action even in the face of fear. And Elon Musk says, well, actually, sorry, no, I actually feel fear very fucking strongly. And he says, but there are times where something is important enough to you or you believe in it enough that you take action in spite of that fear. He even goes on to say, look, I don't want you to sit there and say, I feel fear about this thing, therefore I shouldn't take action. No, it's completely normal to feel the fear. You take action anyway. You take a little baby step of action and you slowly work up the courage to be able to take those bigger leaps of action. I'll leave a link in the description to this video, but holy crap, this is the richest man on the planet right now as I record this. He's worth like $215 billion. He's the CEO of multiple companies. He owns Twitter, SpaceX, Tesla, all of this crazy stuff. This man feels fear as much as anyone else, but there's this weird misconception, like at the start of this interview where people say, I love that you take action. You must never feel fear. Hey, no, fuck that. Everybody feels fear. The difference between the people who make it or who succeed and do crazy big things is that they're able to take a tiny little bit of action, the tiniest little baby step, in spite of that fear. They don't let the fear overcome them. And so when you're feeling those strong fears, take a tiny little baby step towards your goals. Fear is just a feeling. It doesn't have to be a barrier. And I've seen this in my coaching clients. So many people who want to start something, but they feel all this fear and they tell themselves, now's not the right time. Some of you right now will be doing that with my coaching. You want to sign up for coaching, but you're like, now's not the right time. That's fear. That's fucking fear talking. One of my coaching clients really wanted to start a blog and give advice, and he's a really solid writer. And he said, I'll do it when I'm a little bit further along. As in when I'm a little bit further with my own self-improvement and my own goals and I have more to show for it. And I said, my friend, you have a talent for writing. You really do. But right now you are holding back from the world. You're keeping your voice inside. People deserve to hear what you have to say. Right now there are some people struggling with stuff that you could help them with, but you're choosing not to. You're letting them and yourself down every second that you don't help them because of this fear that you feel of not being good enough or not being far enough along. I have another client who wanted to start coaching people himself, but he asked if I thought, and the rest of the group thought, that he could ever coach people or if he's ready. And I said to him, your fear, and he had a fear of being a, quote, little bitch. He was worried that he wouldn't be masculine enough or he'd be too much of a little bitch to help people. I said, your fear of being a little bitch is hurting people who right now could really use your help. You want to help people. People want your help. And it's only fear and insecurity that are stopping you from doing it. People deserve your help. You deserve to help people. It's a win-win. Why don't you just start right now with a tiny little baby step? And if you are going to do things in your life that terrify you, I'll start that again. If you're going to do things in your life that are awesome, they might terrify you a little bit. A lot of the stuff that I've done has been utterly terrifying, but most of the time that fear doesn't end up being true. There's a great saying that fear, FEAR, stands for false evidence appearing real. Your fears often seem very real to you, and you have a lot of evidence that they're scary or that something might go wrong, but most of the time your fears are bullshit. Life is often a lot kinder than the fears that we have about it. Life just tends to be pretty fucking nice, and other people are pretty fucking nice, but we have these big terrifying fears of what could go wrong, the rejection we could face, the, how stupid we could feel if we don't succeed at that thing. But 9 times out of 10, people are nice. Reality is nice. Life is nice. And if you want an awesome life, you're going to have to do things that are a little bit different from what most normal people do. If you want a normal average life, do what normal average people do. If you want an exceptional life, you might have to do some things that are a little bit exceptional. And as such, because they're exceptional, it's the road less traveled. Some of that, there might not be a pathway that's obvious for you. There isn't necessarily a how-to guide of how to tread that different path. There isn't always an instruction manual on how to be exceptional. But if you sit there and ask yourself, what do I actually want? Most of you listening don't just want that boring average life. And if you do, that's great. Go live that average life. Nothing against that. But most of you listening want an awesome life. And you might have to run towards fear a little bit, towards your insecurities, towards your doubts and your, uncertainties, and do something that scares you a little bit. But I've found on the other side of fear is something beautiful. Every time I have pushed myself out of my comfort zone, I have been rewarded 10 billion times over. And the beautiful stuff is on the other side of comfort. In other words, getting out of your comfort zone leads to the really beautiful magic of life. So, enough from me. I would like to hear from you. Leave a comment below. Let us know what scares you. What right now are you avoiding or procrastinating out of fear? Maybe fear of rejection, maybe fear of looking like an idiot, maybe just you don't know what to do. And then what I want you to do, and this is the most important part, is tell us what action you have taken towards that fear. Even just one tiny little baby step. Don't tell us what you're going to do. Nobody cares what you're going to do. That's worthless. That's literally meaningless. That's fluff. Tell us what you have done. And if you haven't done anything, take one tiny little baby step right this second and then post that as a comment below. But I promise you, if you want this beautiful, amazing life that most of you want, it's just a series of tiny little baby steps. It's okay to be terrified along the way. It's okay to have doubts. It's okay to have insecurities. I always have with every goal that I've ever worked on. That stuff doesn't have to hold you back, but take those little baby steps. If you would like me to light a fire under your ass and push you and help you succeed and all of that beautiful stuff, we have a coaching program, we have a group coaching program, we have a one-on-one coaching program. There's payment plans for both of those. We have 4 coaches in there, including myself, and all 4 of us and the other members of the coaching program will light a freaking fire under your ass and push you to be the best version of you that you can be. If you're not sure about the coaching program, you can jump on a call with me, a one-time call for $200. We'll go over everything you want to work on. I will push you like you would not believe. But if you want this beautiful life, you might have to run towards your fears a little bit and do something exceptional. I promise you're capable of it. You got this.